On Monday, Judge Michael Berdallo discharged the jury in the case against murder suspect Alan Agababa, but no declaration has officially been made by the court. PNC's Jolene Toves sat down with Agababa's attorney Curtis Veld to make sense of what has transpired.
It constitutes a mistrial as a matter of law. The question then becomes whether or not there can be a further retrial of the charges.
This is the second time Alan Agababa has been tried in court for the murder of his mother, Shelley Bernstein. In the initial trial, a deadlocked jury was declared after 3 attempts were made by the jury to come to a unanimous decision. So what happens now?
Generally, when it is an initial trial and there's a hung jury, courts don't exercise a supervisory authority to dismiss charges. There's issues about whether or not there's sufficiency of the evidence that can be argued, but the ultimate initial decision rests with the Attorney General's office.
According to Veld, the Attorney General's office has already announced their intention to continue to proceed against Agababa.
So what will happen is that if the court determines to allow a third trial, there will have to be transcripts prepared from the second trial, and then the court will schedule when the retrial will occur.
In the meantime, the court will take up the issue of Agababa's continued confinement or release. Agababa was held on $1 million cash bail, and with no financial resources or eligible family on island to act as third-party custodians, his chances of being released sit in the court's hands. After the first hung jury, a motion for his release was denied by the court.
He has been confined for 4 years. He has, I believe, spent a considerable amount of time in prison for someone who, as to the charge of aggravated murder, the jury was deadlocked, 11 for not guilty, 1 for guilty. I believe that it's a miscarriage of justice to continue to confine him.
And in justice, Veld intends on arguing in court.
I will just be orally moving the court for dismissal on the basis of the fact that the government has twice tried Mr. Agababa, been unable to produce a verdict, produce evidence sufficient for a jury to be able to reach a verdict, and that the continued trial of Mr. Agababa denies him due process. Mr. Agababa was denied sufficient funding from the court to pay for the services of Dr. Cohen, the medical examiner from California who disputed Dr. Espinola's findings. I suspect the court will continue to deny him adequate funding for those services, which will place Mr. Agababa in a position of being a defendant who lacks sufficient financial resources to be able to have a fair and impartial trial.
While Veld has represented Agababa during the trial, he is unsure if he will continue to be his legal counsel or if he will receive court-appointed counsel. Reporting for PNC News, I'm Jolene Toves.